Hi, welcome to the October episode of The Name Sisters. I'm Alexia May, and today we have Elena with us again, and Amelia, and Megan, and me, but unfortunately Rebe will be remote today because, not unfortunately, she just had her baby, which is so exciting. She named her daughter Rowan Avery. Isn't that so pretty? And Ren is in college, so it's been a crazy month for all of us to get together. I'm so excited about this show because we have some awesome names. And this video has been done in the past, but we just thought it would be fun to do it a little differently this time. Today we're going to be talking about alternatives to the most popular names, the top 10 within the girls and the top 10 within the boys. And we're obviously not going to go through each name, but we're just picking like our personal favorites because the top names are beautiful names, and I feel like a lot of times we look over them quickly because we say, oh, well, they're popular. But they're there for a reason, and that's because they're absolutely gorgeous. But if you are somebody who is concerned about using a name that's in the top 10 but love it, we want to share with you some alternatives that we think have the same feel and are just as beautiful but are not very popular. So we each have a boy name and a girl name. That's our favorite from the top 10, and 3 alternatives, and we're going to go do the girls first. So, Elena.
Yes. My name today is Ava, AVA, and I do personally prefer the EVA spelling for Ava, but AVA has a lot of special meaning too. It actually has a different origin from the EVA spelling. It comes from the word that means bird, which is super cute. It has the gorgeous, classy Ava Gardner Association, the old-time actress, and it has personal meaning for me because I have a darling, precious 7-year-old niece named Ava. She basically was like my first child. Ava is currently number 5 in the top 100 or the top 1,000 names in the U.S. Very popular, and in Iowa it usually is number 1, which is where I'm from. It's been in the top 10 since 2005. It's jumped 175 spots since the year 2000. Very popular, but once again, it's popular for a reason. Ava is beautiful, and it's a palindrome, which is really fun, which means it's spelled the same frontward and backwards. Yeah, I can definitely see why people love this name. It's one of the names in the top 100 that I'm glad is popular. It's beautiful. So I do have 3 alternatives for it. And my first alternative is AVIVA. And AVIVA means spring, as in the season in Hebrew, which I think is darling. And this also is a palindrome name, like Amelia pointed out to me. Very cool. Same frontward and backward. And Ava could be a nickname for AVIVA, too. A lot more exotic than Ava, but still extremely gorgeous. And my second alternative for Ava is ADAH. ADA or ADAH. If you like the whole palindrome thing again, like Ava, then ADA is probably what you're going to prefer. But if you're like me and Alexia, if you prefer to have a biblical name, then ADAH is in the Bible a couple different times. Both of those spellings have very good meanings. ADA means noble, and ADAH means ornament, which I think is adorable. Without the H, it's currently number 436, so it's rising, but not anywhere popular at all right now. I do know a couple of little Adas that are both gorgeous. One of them is in our naming community, or her mama is anyway. Yeah, I honestly don't think you could go wrong with Ada. Beautiful, beautiful name. And my third one is definitely the most unusual, which, of course I have to share an unusual name since those are my favorite, and that is MAEVA, which of course rhymes with Ava, and it's M-A-E-V-A. It's a French form of the name Maeve, which means intoxicating, which is a very cool, unique meaning. Maeve is actually number 484 in the top 1,000 right now, but MAEVA has never been used hardly at all in the U.S. So definitely if you're loving Ava but want something a lot more out there, MAEVA would be a good choice for you.
Amelia.
Okay, so the girl's name I have is Olivia, and the reason I chose this name is because I was this close to being named Olivia. My parents went into my birth having decided on Olivia. And my mom preferred the name Amelia, but my dad wasn't quite sure about it. I mean, this was 1991. Amelia wasn't quite as popular as it is now, and he felt a little bit safer using Olivia. And then when the doctor asked, or the nurse asked, so what's her name? He just said, Amelia. And my mom was like, wait, I thought we decided on Olivia. So I chose Olivia because I could have been an Olivia, and I think it is such a beautiful name. Just like Elena said, this is one of the names that I am happy is in the top 100, the top 10, because it is so beautiful, and I can definitely understand why people love it so much. It's derived from the Latin word for the olive tree, and it was actually first used by Shakespeare in his play Twelfth Night, so it's a Shakespearean name for all of you who like literature. It's currently number 3 on the US popularity charts. So my first alternative for Olivia is Olive. Olive comes from the same Latin origin as Olivia, and Olive is a nature name. It fits into the nature name category that is so popular right now because it's a type of tree. Olive is currently number 291 on the US popularity chart, so it is getting a little bit popular, but it's definitely not as popular as Olivia is. My second alternative for Olivia is Lavinia. Lavinia is another Latin name. It's of unknown origin, or meaning, sorry. And Lavinia was a princess in Roman mythology, and like Olivia, this is also a Shakespearean character. So that's another similarity that Olivia and Lavinia share. This name hasn't been in the US top 1000 since 1929, so it's not popular at all if you are concerned about popularity. And my third alternative for Olivia is actually my personal second favorite name, and I think if my mom was to have a child today, this would be the name that she would choose, and that is Octavia. And Octavia is another Latin name, and it means 8. And Octavia and Olivia are very similar. They are both 4 syllables. They both start with an O and end with an A, so I think it's a great alternative. And in history, Octavia was the sister of Emperor Augustus and one of the wives of Mark Antony. So it has a lot of history as well. And Octavia was last in the US top 1000 in the year 1998. So it hasn't been popular recently, but I could definitely see it starting to rise as an alternative to Olivia.
Megan.
Okay, so I actually like quite a few of the girls' names in the top 10, and the name that I'm going to talk about is Elizabeth, a name that a lot of the name sisters like as well, so thank you guys for letting me steal this one. Elizabeth happens to be my own middle name, so I am kind of biased towards it. It's a Hebrew name meaning pledged to God. It's currently number 10 right now in the United States. This name has been wildly popular since names have been recorded. It just happens to be one of those names that never really loses popularity or sounds dated or aged to me. I believe the lowest it's ever been is number 26 in popularity in the charts since 1880. So, like I said, it's my own middle name. It is all over my family tree. I'm researching my family tree right now, and there are so many Elizabeths and variations of the name Elizabeth. So I like that connection. Also, I love the literary ties to Elizabeth, Elizabeth Bennet, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, just to name a few. So I get nostalgic when I think of this name because it reminds me of writers and characters that I really love. Another thing that I love about this name is there are so many juicy nicknames to the name Elizabeth. So I think that's really neat if you are handing it down or passing it down, that you could find your own unique nickname for it. So all 3 of my alternatives are names that actually are variations or come from Elizabeth. The first one that I have is Eliza. Eliza is a diminutive of Elizabeth, so it has the same meaning. It's number 200 in popularity. I think of Eliza Doolittle. I know Amelia really likes this as a nickname to Elizabeth. I think it's beautiful as a nickname or on its own. I think Eliza just sounds very classy and ladylike and just beautiful. My second alternative is Lisette, which can be spelled with an S or a Z. You could do that Z if you wanted that Liz sound or nickname. But Lisette, it's got something very like soft but striking about it, and I love that when a name sounds really feminine but also kind of makes a presence or has a power behind it. And then my third alternative is ELSPETH, which is one that I found in my family tree as well. It's a Scottish variation, and it has a really similar feel to Elizabeth. A lot of people are loving Ellie and Elsie as nicknames, so if you wanted those for Elizabeth, you might like ELSPETH because it's got that strong L sound in the beginning of it.
I chose Emily because it's my confirmation name, and for those of you who don't know, confirmation is a sacrament that you receive in the Catholic Church between the grades of 5th and 8th, and during that time you pick a saint who you want to like follow and who you want to guide you and use their name. So I picked Emily, and I really liked it. It's very simple, it's very girly. I think it's easy to say, and it's also easy to spell. Emily's not only popular in the US, but it's also popular worldwide. In 2012, it was ranked in the top 10 for England, Ireland, and Scotland. And it was also ranked pretty high for a few other countries. So if you like to travel or you plan to travel or move around a lot, Emily would be great because it would be something that is familiar in many other countries. Emily is also has great associations. So there's Emily Bronte and Emily Dixon, both writers. The three alternatives I picked for Emily were Romilly, Emerson, and Amelie. Romilly is currently not ranked in the USA at all. So it's very, very unpopular compared to the name Emily. And I picked Romilly because it sounds very similar to Emily. It has a similar ending. The only thing different about it is the beginning. So there's the rho in Romilly and the E in Emily. That's really the only difference. I thought Romilly was very pretty, and it just bounced off of Emily quite nicely. Emerson is ranked at number 211, and it has slowly been going up in popularity over the years. I do hear it a lot more. I've been hearing it in the name world a lot, and a lot of people like it. It is a unisex name, but I still love it, and it works perfectly on a girl. It's a great alternative to Emily because it has a similar M beginning sound. So if you like Emily for that, Emerson is perfect because it's very, very similar. And if you were to use Emily and you wanted the nickname Emmy, you can do the same thing with Emerson. And Amelie is ranked all the way down at number 604, and it is not popular compared to Emily. It is a French name. It's also, I believe, an alternative to the name Amelia, so there's another semi-popular name you can use. But I really like Amelie as an alternative to Emily because it simply sounds very grand, but it sounds also very similar to Emily. So you get a similar feel. You get the M in there, you get the Lee at the end, so I really like that.
So my name is Abigail. I chose the biblical name. I love the name Abigail. It's so pretty and it's so sweet. It's one of those names, like, if they were a person, they'd be the person outside of the spotlight, but they'd be the person that you would gravitate to, I think. And I just like it. Abby is obviously a popular nickname for it, and it's endured. It's held its ground. It's, like I said, it's a biblical name, so it's been around a long, long time. But the beautiful thing about Abigail is that it's become partially classic too. So it has the biblical roots, but it's also alongside like Elizabeth and Pearl. It just seems like a beautiful vintage name. It just has that feel. And so the first alternative that I have is Annabelle. It starts with an A and ends with an L. It sounds very similar to Abigail, but it's hardly ranked at all. In 2013, it was at number 900. spelled ANABEL, but the ANNABELLE is a little bit higher. It's at number 81, but still compared to Abigail, it's not very popular at all. Don't let the fact that the one spelling has gone into the top 100 scare you, because it's still not very popular at all. Annabelle means lovable, or it can also mean grace beautiful, because if you take the names Anna and Belle together, that's what it would mean. And I think it's so, so pretty. The second alternative I have is AVERIL. Not like AVERIL, the French word for the month April, but spelled AVERIL. And it's never ranked at all, which I was very surprised. Neither has AVERIL, AVRIL either. And it means boar battle, which does not have as beautiful of a meaning as Abigail, which is joy of the Father, but I think it's still very, very pretty. And the third alternative I have is another biblical name, and that's ADALIA. It can also be pronounced ADALIA, but ADALIA, I think, is the pronunciation that would be chosen a lot more often. And ADALIA has never ranked in the top 1,000, so it's very, very rare, and it means God is just. Elena, would you like to share your boy name?
Yes, I am really excited about my boy name. It's quite possibly my favorite name in the top 10 for boys or girls, and that's Liam, which is number 2 right now. Honestly, I think this is probably the name, once again, in the top 10 for boys or girls that I'm most excited to see so popular, because it was borderline obscure in the U.S. even just 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, William and Daniel and Alexander, most of the names in the top 10 boy names are names that are fairly classic. And Liam is not only not considered classic, but it's also still very fresh and handsome. I don't see it necessarily being dated. Just because there's nothing necessarily trendy about it. You know, it's a name that's been around a long time, just not in the U.S. I love the Liam Neeson Association, who is one of my favorite actors, easily. Liam is an Irish name. It's a diminutive of William, which means resolute helmet. And it has jumped 112 spots in the last 10 years, so rising very quickly. Of course, it can't get too much higher than it is right now. And I'm going to go ahead and share my alternatives. And my first one is LYALL, L-Y-A-L-L. This name can also be pronounced Lyall, but I chose this spelling because, like I first mentioned, it can be pronounced Lyall as well. And it's a Scottish name that means wolf. It's a form of a Norse name that I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce because of those fancy Norse letters they have. But I thought that meaning was kind of cool too, wolf. Yeah, I think LYALL would be really cool and unexpected in the U.S. And my second alternative is LELAND, L-E-L-A-N-D. And LELAND has some special meaning to me because I grew up in a town called LELAND when I was little, and I remember having to write LELAND over and over again for my address as a little girl, and so it's just really familiar with me. I really like the meaning of LELAND. It means meadowland. I think that is so, so beautiful. And it's currently ranked at number 388. It's rising, but it's definitely not popular right now. And LELAND has kind of a like preppy, classy feel to me. I'm not sure why. I must have seen some sort of person like that in the past. But yeah, I definitely like the name LELAND a lot. And my last alternative is definitely my most out there one, but it's probably my favorite out of the alternatives, and that is FITZWILLIAM. And just like Megan's Elizabeth, I associate Fitzwilliam with Jane Austen and Fitzwilliam Darcy, who's from her novel Pride and Prejudice. Fitzwilliam has so many nickname options, and one of them is, of course, Liam. So if you were wanting something way less popular than Liam, but maybe still have the option to call him that, Fitzwilliam would be perfect for you.
Okay, so the boy's name that I have is Alexander, and Alexander is probably my, well, I love so many of these top 10 names, and that's the thing, is that a lot of these top 10 names get brushed aside as being too popular, but I love the name Alexander. I think it is such a strong and masculine name. I know my parents considered this name for my brother. Alexander is of Greek origin. It means defender of man, which I think is a great meaning. And there were so many famous Alexanders. There's so many namesakes. There's, of course, Alexander the Great. Then there were several King Alexanders, and there were 8 popes named Alexander. And then there's Alexander Graham Bell, who was the inventor of the telephone. The highest that Alexander has been in the U.S. for popularity was number 4 in 2009, and it is currently number 8. So my first alternative for Alexander is ALISTAIR or ALASTAIR, and this is the Scottish form of Alexander. This name is kind of special to me because if my grandfather hadn't been adopted, my last name would be McAllister. So I associate with the Clan McAllister of Scotland. And so ALISTAIR is kind of a variation of that name and a variation of the name Alexander. There are several different ways you can spell ALISTAIR, but this spelling is the most common, and it's currently number 405 in England and Wales, but it's never been in the top 1,000 in the United States. The second alternative I have is Leander. Leander is a Greek name that means lion man, which I think is a really fun meaning. And Leander has never been popular really in the United States either. Last time it was in the top 1,000 was in 1969, so it's definitely a less popular alternative. But I think it would still be very usable, and you could get the nickname Leo as well, which would be really cute. And the last alternative I have for Alexander is Evander. And this is another Greek name. It means good man. And in mythology, Evander was a hero of the Trojan War, so there's that association. And this name has only ever been in the top 1,000 in the United States one time, and that was way, way back in 1895, so it's definitely kind of a rare gem, Evander. So those are my Alexander alternatives.
Nice. So I am a lover of E names. A lot of my favorite names begin with E, and so I picked 2 E names. Elizabeth was my girl's choice. Ethan is my boy's choice. Ethan was one of my favorite names in high school. I don't love it like I did then, but I do think it's a nice name. It's Hebrew, meaning strong and firm. It's currently number 6 right now in the United States. And when I was looking at this name, it kind of fits a formula of many popular male names. A lot of boys' names are 2 syllables and end in the letter N. And so my examples, I tried to kind of go with that formula because they kind of match Ethan then. And so all of these 3 examples are 2 syllables, and they begin in E and end in N. So the first one I have is Eben. Eben is Hebrew as well. It's a form of the name Ebenezer. It means stone of help. And I think Eben is kind of just fun to say. I really appreciate names that are fun to say. And you can use this to honor someone named Benjamin or Bennett as well. You can use Ben as a nickname for Eben, and I think it's just kind of neat and unusual in its own little way. The next one I have is Ewan. Ewan is Scottish, and it means born of the yew tree. Ewan, you might think of the actor Ewan McGregor. That's how many of us are familiar with this name. It has a really cool, unique ring to it, but I still think it is very usable, and again, it kind of fits that formula, so even if people haven't heard it a lot, it will have a familiar ring to it. And then the last one is a name that I really love, and that is Evren. Evren is Turkish. It has beautiful meaning. It means of the heavens or of the cosmos. I love that Ev sound in many names. I love that you can get the nickname Ever from this name. And something kind of neat when I was thinking about this show and this project is that it's worth it to look at alternatives because I actually like the alternative Evren better than Ethan, which was an old name choice. So it's totally okay if you love popular names. Many of us do. I definitely do. Like I love Elizabeth more than my other examples, but I love Evren, which would be an alternative more. I hope that makes sense. So those are my choices.
For Jacob, I chose Jacob because it's a biblical name, and recently I've been more into the Bible and reading and into my faith and kind of going around that, and so I really like biblical names now. And Jacob also has the nickname Jake, which I like Jake. I think K's in names give it an edge, and even the C in Jacob, so you got a little like edgy there. One of my favorite things about Jacob is it sounds so different. A lot of names you hear for boys end in son or un or like er, but Jacob ends in a B, which you don't find very often on names, so I like that about it. The three alternatives I picked for Jacob were Jacoby, Job, and Caleb. Jacoby is probably the closest to Jacob out of the three. It's spelled exactly like Jacob, but with a Y at the end. It's just pronounced a little bit differently. And it's ranked at number 487. I thought that Jacoby just fit perfectly. It looks very similar. It does sound a little bit different, but that's okay. I don't see people having an issue pronouncing it. They may say Jacoby, but I really don't think so, especially since I've been hearing it a little bit more lately. I like that. You can also use the nickname Jake with Jacoby, so you have Jacob and Jacoby, both with the nickname Jake. Job is the most unique name on my list. I picked Job because it ends in a B, also like Jacoby. It actually, also like Jacob, it actually ends in an OB, like Jacob. And it's also a biblical name. There's I believe a chapter, there's Jobs in the Bible. And I thought that was cool. It's not ranked in the US. And you can spell it J-O-B or J-O-B-E. You can spell it both ways. And I just thought it was very cool and a great alternative. And very, very unpopular. And then Caleb, I picked Caleb, which is ranked at number 33, which is, that's kind of popular, but it's actually not as popular as you would believe. But I picked Jacob because it is yet again another biblical name. So if you want to go with a biblical name and you like Jacob, but it was too popular for you, you could definitely use Caleb because that's biblical. It also ends in the B, like Jacob, so that's another one. And it also has like the C sound, like the Jake up and Caleb, so it kind of has a little bit of an edge to it with the C. But yeah, all three are great names, so all these names are great alternatives to the popular names in the top 10.
Well, mine is Mason, which in 2013 was number 4. And I just thought it would be fun to tie Mason in as a biblical name because Masons are mentioned throughout the Bible as an occupation. And they're first mentioned in the time of King David. So I thought that was really, really cool. It makes Mason seem very, very, very old. And I love that. The interesting thing about the name Mason is that it's always been in the top 1,000, so I thought that was really neat. My first alternative is MATTSON. MATTSON has never been in the top. It's an old surname, which I think is really, really cool. You could use the nickname Matt, or I think probably even Mace, like you could with Mason. And it means son of Matthew, and Matthew means gift of God. My second alternative, I'm a swiveler. I like to swivel, and my chair swivels, so I know that I've been doing that, but I'm unapologetic about it. My second alternative is Maxon. I think it's very, very cool. It's also very old, but it sounds trendier like Mason does. You could use the nicknames Mac or Max. And Maxon is actually the Welsh form of Maximus, which I thought was so cool. And it appears as early as the 4th century. There was a guy called Maxon Magnus, I think. Was it Maxon Magnus or Maxon Maximus? Something like that. But it was really cool. But anyway, I digress. And my third is Dixon, for Mason Dixon, of course. I think that's so cool. And Dixon has only ranked one time in 1881, and it was number 807. So probably parents today would not want to use the nickname Dick like olden days, but I think Dix is kind of a cool nickname. I don't know, or even Don. I don't know. Comment below what nicknames you think would go well with Dixon, because I think Dixon is really cool. So those are my alternatives for this. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our alternatives to the popular names. Like I said in the beginning, and we've said throughout the video, popular names are so beautiful and they're popular for a reason. So don't overlook them so quickly, but do some exploring, because we have enjoyed our search of finding alternatives, and you might as well. So comment below your favorite names, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next month. Bye.